Hello everyone, Richard Lewis with another video here. Now, I know, obviously, when it comes to Counter-Strike of late, I think we've all got a little bit of scandal fatigue. I understand it. I'm sympathetic. We seem to have gone from the gambling situation. Now we're moving into this ES Force situation. Now I've done a video about an ESL board member potentially having financial interests in two teams, perhaps more. It's just an incredibly dark time, and I understand when people kind of want to put their head in the sand and not necessarily acknowledge that these things are happening. I understand as well that if you're just a casual player, a lot of this stuff is boring. But I do want to try and just bring your attention into sharp focus one more time. Obviously, we're going to still do all the news summaries that we do. We're going to bring you some new news on the gambling stuff, some good news on the Phantom Lord situation. All of that's still coming. But one of the things that I really want to bring your attention to is just this idea of controlling the media and having financial influence in the media. Now, the idea of a pure media is nonsensical, I would say. Even print media, the online media especially, these things cost money, writers cost money, content costs money, and the idea that the ideal model is to monetize that content and get a return on it, or you have to get an incredibly rich sugar daddy and run your publication as a loss leader effectively. That's the price of journalism, it seems, these days. It's never really had a good return. But it does take a lot of resources, time, and skills, and therefore costs a lot to do the right kind of journalism. Now, I myself have drawn a lot of attention to some of the good work done by a publication called the Esports Observer. You'll have heard me reference them in a few of their videos. Indeed, I used to work with one of their journalists, a chap called Ferguson Mitchell, very good journalist. I've always sang his praises. And what seems to have happened is I've definitely missed something that was on the radar. But not only that, they seemed to, their other journalist, who was their editor-in-chief, which I had no idea. I assumed this guy would work for Ferg because he doesn't have a great pedigree. Tiemo Brautagen, he said he started attacking me after the last video I did on Twitter, saying that I'd lied, and I was like, "Well, what's he doing here?" And that was where I'd said to Ferg a few days prior to them publishing, or 1 or 2 days prior to them publishing their SK Gaming story, I just said, you might want to take a look at SK Gaming too. The CS Force thing is big. It's not just about Virtus Pro. And then TMO ran another story, and he took exception to me just telling the truth that I'd said to Ferg, this is where it is. I didn't name him by name. I didn't take credit for his work, but he got very upset, and he sent me about, a dozen tweets basically saying I was a liar. And correcting things I'd never said. And I thought that was a bit of an overreaction. And it's not the first time he's gone at me. Just from looking at his Twitter feed, he's somebody who obviously aggrandizes his own work. He's obviously somebody who wants to make a name for himself. And I don't necessarily mind that. I think that can be a healthy attitude in journalists. I do find it a little bit sickening when somebody said, oh, one of your stories is the story of the year, referring to the Virtus Pro ES Force thing. And he said, no, this is the story of the year. And then linked to another piece of his own work, which is, maybe climb down a little bit from that fucking high horse that you're on, but whatever. But then I started wondering exactly why this was happening. And we did a story, as you know, on this YouTube channel where we said Jens Hilgers might very well have a financial interest in G2 and Fnatic. And certainly it was provable that he'd loaned Fnatic money, and the nature of that loan could potentially give him complete control of the Fnatic and the Fnatic Gear organizations and businesses. Now, Esports Observer didn't report this. In fact, on Twitter, Sam, if you can bring this up, somebody asked them why they hadn't reported it. And they said, oh, well, we didn't want to jump the gun. Implying that we'd gone off a little bit too early. And you'll probably see my reply in there as well, where I'm saying, well, it's definitely nothing to do with you being funded by Jens's company. And that was what we found. And this is why I wanted to present all this information to you, so you can perhaps take some of the news you get from the Esports Observer with a liberal pinch of salt moving forward. So just looking at the who is domain, and this is a classic area. We've seen people fall down time and time again on this. They cover their tracks in one area, and then they forget to do it on something as basic as the who is. You can see here that the original registrar and owner is indeed Jens Hilgers of BITKRAFT Holding. And that was on October the 1st, 2015. Now, BITKRAFT Holding, they're a company we're taking a long, hard look at. This is basically Jens Hilger's investment group. He takes money from other companies that go into BITKRAFT, and then he distributes this money throughout esports. And you can see another company he works for is in the portfolio, Dojo Madness. You can see as well Epic Nutrition, SubGG, Esports Business Solutions, and Level 99 on the website. Now, I'm pretty sure the money has gone into other places, but that's not the video to talk about that. We're going to try and break all that down and find out exactly where the money is going, because keep in mind, this is why this is important from a conflict of interest perspective. Jens is a board member at ESL. Him having an interest in any team is a conflict of interest, because ESL is a league and a tournament organizer. And I'm of the opinion that if he's going to do these things and invest, he certainly shouldn't be allowed to invest in multiple teams. And he certainly shouldn't be allowed to invest in anything that ESL works with, or any team that competes in an ESL tournament while he's an ESL board member. That just seems to be a conflict of interest 101. But this is the company we want to look at, Esports Business Solutions. And as you can see there, BITKRAFT are an investor. That's Jens Hilger's company again. And who are Esports Business Solutions? Well, if you scroll down to their employees, you will see a chap called Christopher Hanna is the CEO, and you will see Lars Langenstuck as well, two names. So who are these people? Well, you go to Christopher Hanna, and keep in mind, he's the CEO of this Esports Business Solutions. Well, he's also the CEO at the Esports Observer, which leads me, and there's no mention of Esports Business Solutions on his LinkedIn, and that indeed would lead me to believe that rather than him being the CEO of two companies, you can see CEO of Esports Business Solutions, the Esports Observer. They are the same company. Esports Business Solutions and the Esports Observer are the same entity. And indeed, that's the same if we go to Lars Langenstuck's Twitter. You can see he's the head of careers at TEO, the Esports Observer, running the #1 career service in esports. And they've got a very good feature on the site, actually, where it's like jobs in esports, where to get jobs, and there's job postings. They used to be a separate site, and they've amalgamated into being one entity. So you can see right away there that Jens Hilger's money flows, or rather the company that gets the money flows into the Esports Observer. And this just puts the reporting by Teemu Brautigam into a very different light for me, because there is no disclosure of this anywhere I could find on the website, and there's no disclosure in any of the reporting. And I think this is important, because if we look through, you can see on his news, there's some stuff here that very heavily reads like PR and doesn't read like good reporting to me. Some of it I'm very confused about, actually. So there's this report from March the 1st. The headline is ESL secures home loan bank Wusterrot as main sponsor for ESL Meisterschaft. And you can see here that this reads just very much like a press release. It's just saying what a great sponsorship it is. It's very praising of ESL, very praising of their partners. It is literally just a copy-paste of a press release. Now, nowhere does it say on this press release, the company we take our money from is a board member of ESL. I think that's important when we do independent reporting. And then we have this next thing here. Let me have a look. Hang on. Sorry. Yeah, ignore that one. I gave you a wrong link, Sam. And we can skip the next one as well, because that's just confirmation of the CEO indeed being at the Esports Observer. So if we cut to this report here, twice as many Russians watched ESL 1 Frankfurt compared to the rest of the world. Now, that might be interesting, and certainly within the context of what's happening with ES Force, far be it from me to suggest anything there, but you can see it's basically just a breakdown of ESL 1 Frankfurt and all the way that it was consumed, all the hours, or all of it went, all of the data. And again, this is interesting, I suppose. It does look a bit perhaps self-congratulatory, because we're ultimately talking about what an achievement it is to have all of these hours. And again, there's no declaration of the fact that this company is funded by a company that is ran by the chairman, well, the former chairman of the board at ESL and a current board member of ESL. Then you see things like this: 5 minutes with Kim Rom. And Kim Rom is somebody with a long-standing tenure in esports, one of those people who have serially failed upwards. This is the guy who basically ran On Gamers into the ground, CBSI's interactive esports website. They used to employ Travis, Slasher, Thorin, all of these great esports figures, and he basically single-handedly ran that into the ground. Well, again, he's managed to find some more venture capital to dine out on, and he's in a company now called Level 99. Now, there's an interview with Kim Rom on the Esports Observer. Guess who funds Level 99? Well, again, the money comes from BITKRAFT, and there's no declaration, and you can see that. I don't know if you want to bring it back up, Sam, but remember earlier we saw Level 99? Well, there it is, again, on the angel.co BITKRAFT, where the money goes, Level 99. So there's no declaration here that this could be a bit of PR effectively. Nothing about the financial ties whatsoever. And again, it's done by TMO Brautigam. So you then move on to things like ESL and Nintendo launch the first official Splatoon tournament. I mean, again, nice little curio, but it reads like a PR statement. It reads like PR, and there's no declaration of any potential ties or anything like that. Now, this is where it gets a little bit more interesting for me. We've talked about Level 99. And there's a lot on the Esports Observer about this Overwatch team called Reunited. And you can see there's a 5-minute interview here with Fredrik Krag Christensen, the managing director of Reunited. And you can also see another piece by TMO Brautigam saying Reunited wants to become the Astralis of Overwatch esports. And there's a piece there about it. Now, you know, I've been trying to dip my toe in and out of esports. Overwatch. Definitely not esports, but Overwatch esports. While this has been going on, I've tried to keep up to date with all the big stories. There's all this talk about, you know, Reunited, but they've definitely got a big push from the Esports Observer here, it seems, in terms of their relevance and what they're trying to achieve. And these are 2 articles in a relatively short space of time. Now, I looked into who Fredrik Krag Christensen is, and indeed I had multiple sources reach out to me and say, while we're looking at teams that maybe Jens Hilgers has ties to, you might want to look at Reunited. And lo and behold, if you go on the LinkedIn, Fredrik Krag Christensen, managing director and co-founder at Reunited, which he has been since January 2016. Well, guess where he used to work? He used to work at BITKRAFT Holding. BITKRAFT Holding, Jens Hilger's company. And I'd be very interested to see where the financials and the particulars are coming through from that team. Now, they did have a website up. Apparently, it's down at the moment. I don't know why that could possibly be, but if you go to reunited.gg, it's got coming soon at the moment. I guess we'll wait and see what happens there. But just a very interesting chain here. And just to wrap up the video, just to kind of keep it short and succinct, you know, I've always tried to declare when something is, you know, an advertorial or when something is sponsored content, you've obviously got an obligation to do that. I think when there's any financial ties, I think you've got an obligation to do that. You know, like when I worked at Heaven Media, we had some overlap in one of our employees did work with Alienware, and we did a lot of Alienware sponsored articles and Alienware sponsored promotions, but we declared it every time. It was very clear that there was this relationship here, and it was very clear where the money was coming from. And I think that's very important, because you have to put faith in independent reporting. And I'm not saying the Esports Observer is completely worthless. I'm not saying that, but it's certainly compromised. When you see them saying things like, you know, this Jens Hilgers instance, I think that's a big story. When you say that, you know, other people who are bringing it to light are jumping the gun, this information's been available since July 21st, and quite possibly a bit beyond that, further back. I had people messaging me saying, hey, glad that's finally out about Jens and Fnatic. I had about a dozen people message and say that to me. And some people couldn't declare it for various reasons, but other people could have and didn't. You know, that's the classic esports approach. Let's keep secrets. So the idea that we've jumped the gun, this apparently needed to be talked about a while, perhaps before they'd done business in the League of Legends sector and transferred players and things like this. So I am a little bit perplexed as to that stance when quite clearly what we can see here is a financial connection. And I'd like to have that explained and clarified, honestly. My advice to anybody who are reading the Esports Observer, and especially in regards to certain news, if you think it's going to be independent, I think we can now see demonstrably that's not the case. And especially with the work of this TMO Brautigam, who, as I said, I wondered why he was so vicious in calling me out on more than one occasion. Now I think it's clear. You know, I'm not well liked by these status quo types. I'm not well liked by the people that just want to treat esports as a conduit to making money, because I don't like conflict of interest. Go make your money, but do it in an ethical way, and do it in a way that preserves the integrity of the sport. Quite obviously, and I talked about some other video. I was potentially going to be the subject of a hit piece. Jens Hilgers had talked to a journalist called Slasher, who's not active at the moment, while he was at ESPN, and was trying to convince him to write something negative about me, try and make out I was some attack dog for Turner, and I was trying to undermine every other business in the space. Completely not true. But now I wonder if I've got that dubious pleasure to look forward to, courtesy of the independent and wonderful Esports Observer. Let's see how it pans out, but I just wanted to bring this to your attention. I think it's important you guys know the truth. And as always, thanks for supporting the channel, and we'll see you on the next video.